Every civilization believes it will last forever. Rome believed it too, but eternity is a story we tell ourselves, right before the end begins. Rome didn't fall when the barbarians arrived. It didn't fall in a single battle or even a single century. Rome fell long before, quietly, invisibly from within. So why do great civilizations die, even at the height of their power? The illusion of permanence. At its height, Rome ruled more than 60 million people. Its roads stretched across deserts, forests and mountains, a web of stone binding the world together. Over 250,000 miles of roads connected the empire, so precisely engineered that some still exist today, 2,000 years later. Merchants carried silk from the east, amber from the north, and spices from lands most Romans would never see. In the markets, languages blended like colors on a painter's palette. Greek philosophers debated in the forums. Egyptian merchants haggled in the markets. Germanic guards stood watch at palace gates. Rome wasn't just an empire, it was the world. In the forums, statues of marble gods watched over a people who believed they had mastered destiny itself. The Pantheon's dome still defies explanation. The aqueducts brought water flowing uphill through stone veins. Roman engineering was so advanced that when medieval Europeans found their ruins, they thought giants must have built them. To the world, Rome looked eternal, a monument carved into time. But beneath the marble and the triumphs, something was already breaking. The anatomy of decline. Civilizations don't collapse because they are weak. They collapse because they forget why they exist. Success creates comfort. Comfort creates complacency, and complacency creates decline. Rome's fall wasn't a moment, it was a mood, a slow erosion of purpose, a quiet forgetting of what once made it strong. This is the paradox of power. The very success that makes a civilization great plants the seeds of its destruction. The death of the Republic Rome began as a republic, a fragile experiment built on duty, sacrifice, and shared responsibility. Farmers left their fields to defend the state. Cincinnatus, the legendary general, saved Rome from invasion, then returned to his plough the next day. He held absolute power for 16 days and gave it all back. Senators debated not for spectacle but for the survival of an idea. That power belonged to the people. The Senate wasn't just a building, it was a promise. A promise that Rome belonged to all Romans, not just the powerful. But as the empire expanded, something shifted. Citizens became spectators. Politics became theater. The forum transformed from a place of genuine debate to a stage for performance. Politicians didn't solve problems anymore, they entertained crowds. Power became personal. Julius Caesar crossed the Rubicon with his army, breaking the sacred law that no general could enter Rome armed. The civil wars that followed killed hundreds of thousands. Brother fought brother, father fought son, the Republic drowned in its own blood. The Republic's ideals faded into memory, replaced by the ambitions of emperors and the hunger of crowds seeking entertainment over responsibility. The Colosseum became the new Senate. The roar of the mob replaced the voice of the citizen. Bread and circuses, they called it. Keep the people fed and entertained, and they won't ask dangerous questions. They won't demand accountability. They won't remember what citizenship once meant. A civilization loses its future the moment it forgets its past. The economy of conquest. Rome's wealth was vast but fragile. Its economy depended on conquest, on taking, not creating. Every victory brought slaves, gold, and land. Every defeat brought hunger. When expansion slowed, the system cracked. At its peak, 1 in 3 people in Italy were enslaved. Why innovate when labor is free? Why invest in technology when you can simply conquer? Rome's dependence on slavery made it rich and fatally stagnant. The treasury emptied. Wars became more expensive. Defending the borders cost more than conquering new lands. The math stopped working. Inflation soared. In the year 200, a Roman soldier earned 300 denarii. By the year 300, that same soldier needed 100,000 denarii to buy what 300 once bought. Coins were shaved thinner and thinner until the silver inside them was little more than a memory. People stopped trusting the currency. They stopped trusting the state. The gap between rich and poor widened until it became a canyon no law could bridge. Senators owned estates the size of small countries. Farmers lost their land and flooded into cities, desperate, angry, and forgotten. Corruption spread like a quiet plague, eating away at trust, at dignity, at the belief that Rome still served its people. Tax collectors became extortionists. Judges sold verdicts to the highest bidder. Every level of government rotted from within. A society can survive poverty. It cannot survive the belief that the system no longer works. The crisis of identity. But Rome's greatest loss wasn't territory. It was confidence. By the 3rd century, Rome had 50 emperors in 50 years. Most died violently. How do you build a future when you can't predict next month? The old virtues, courage, duty, sacrifice, became relics of another age. The stories Romans told themselves changed. Once they believed they were destined to rule the world. Now they simply hoped to survive it. People stopped believing in Rome, and when people stop believing, institutions crumble. A civilization dies in the mind long before it dies in the world. The hollow army, on the frontiers the legions waited. Cold winds swept across the Rhine, campfires flickered in the darkness. Soldiers who once marched with pride now wondered whether the empire behind them was still worth defending. The legions that once conquered Gaul were now staffed by the very barbarians they once fought. Germanic tribes made up entire legions. Their loyalty wasn't to Rome, it was to their commanders, or to gold, or to survival. By the time the empire faced real threats, it was already hollow. The borders were vast, but the will to defend them was thin. The armies were large, but loyalty was for sale. Generals fought each other more often than they fought Rome's enemies. In 378, at Adrianople, a Roman army met a Gothic force. The Romans were destroyed. The emperor died on the battlefield. 2/3 of the Eastern army vanished in a single afternoon. It wasn't just a military defeat, it was a revelation. Rome could no longer protect itself. The empire still looked powerful, but power without purpose is only a shadow. The final surrender. When Rome finally fell, it wasn't a dramatic explosion. It wasn't a single night of fire. It was a quiet surrender, a long, slow exhale of a civilization that had forgotten how to breathe. In 476, a Germanic general named Odoacer marched into Ravenna. He didn't burn the city. He didn't slaughter the Senate. He simply told the teenage emperor Romulus Augustulus that his services were no longer needed. The boy emperor gave up his crown, and Rome ended, not with a battle cry, but with a bureaucratic formality. The barbarians didn't kill Rome. They walked into a world that had already given up. The Western Empire had become so weak, so fractured, so lost that its disappearance barely caused a ripple. Many people at the time didn't even notice. Life continued. The aqueducts still flowed. The roads still connected cities. But the dream, the idea of Rome, was gone. The final lesson. Rome teaches us that greatness is not a destination. It is a direction, a constant becoming. The moment a civilization stops striving, the moment it chooses comfort over purpose, its decline has already begun. Rome fell because it stopped being Rome. It forgot what made it strong: shared sacrifice, civic duty, the belief that citizens were responsible for something larger than themselves. Every empire believes it is eternal. Every society thinks it is different. But the laws of history are patient. The warning signs are always the same. Leadership that performs instead of leads. Systems that serve the few instead of the many. Comfort that replaces duty. Rome didn't fall to barbarians, it fell to amnesia, a civilization that forgot its own story. The question isn't why Rome fell. The question is whether we are paying attention, whether we will recognize the warning in our own time, and whether we have the courage to choose differently. Because every civilization gets to choose, and that choice is made every single day.